There are three basic types of financial feasibilities. The number one is the validation feasibility, which is what this module covers, and which is what we are going to see how we can do them and install the add-on, and I'll explain how everything comes together and how you can actually make use of that 2 minute FISA. I like to call it the 2 minute FISA because it only hardly takes about 2 minutes to actually do this once you understand how everything comes together, what to allow for under each cost head. So if you see the letters TMF somewhere, just understand that it actually means the 2 minute visa. What does it actually do? All it is, it's an initial viability study. Now, financial feasibilities, especially the detailed ones, the full scale financial feasibilities, they require a lot of information that needs to be gathered, a lot of assumptions that need to be made before you can actually do them, and they don't take 2 minutes. They actually can take a couple of hours to do, or over a period of time they could take maybe 3 hours or 4 hours to do, as and when the information comes in, and you keep refining them as you keep going and as more information presents itself. This one is also known as the back of the napkin feasibility, but I don't like to call that, because the way I've actually designed this application is that it is really good if you know what you are doing, and it is quite accurate even if you don't do the full feasibility. And the reason I use it all the time is because we conduct numbers and financial feasibilities on so many different projects, and it's like we throw away seven and we keep three, or we throw away almost nine of them out of the 10 that we look at. But that doesn't mean that I only do feasibility on the 10th one. I actually do feasibility on all 10 of those projects. However, you got to be smart about these things, because if you spend all the time that's required to do a full scale feasibility on every project, that will be a full time job. You'll miss out on projects, because nobody spends all this time on all those on every project. So what we do is we do certain ballpark numbers, certain averages, certain allowances for certain cost heads that we know from past experiences what they come out to be, and what they can be. And once we do all of those, we get to a number that gives us certain level of confidence whether or not we want to go ahead with it. So what it basically does is it tells us whether or not the project works, and it's all done based on past averages and ballpark numbers. It's used to quickly determine the need to dig further. It gives you this feasibility that I put together. It actually gives you profitability, the basic metrics that you need, do the GRV, or the gross realization value, or the total sales, cover all the total costs, which is the total development costs. It requires knowledge of basic footprints of dwellings that you intend on developing. So you can incorporate a guesstimate of the highest, best possible use of the land. It is based on broad strokes only, and the more details that you can add to it, the better number it can deliver to you. So let's look at all these things. So we've got the validation FISO, which is the 2 minute FISO. Basically gives you a yes, dig further, no, dead in water, and yes, equal to move to the next stage, which is actually going to cost you more, that you'll have to get some schematics done. So let's look at the different stages that you need to go through in order to get to a full detailed feasibility. So what we do is we start off with a 2 minute FISO. We quickly do some numbers based on assumptions, calculations. We see whether or not the project's got any legs. If it does, we move on to the next stage. What's the next stage? The next stage is to pick up the phone and give a call to your architect and say, look, this is the site that I'm looking at. That's the title. Those are the details. Can you put some schematics for me? And what they do is they create certain rough sketches. However, from those rough sketches, they give you the actual build area. They give you the floor space that you are actually going to be able to sell, or the net sellable area, or the gross floor area, or the gross built area, the setbacks, the percentage of the site that has to be garden, for example. So these are the things that are determined from that schematics design that your architect would actually put it together for you, so you can run your numbers on them. The next stage, now this is going forward towards a detailed full-scale financial feasibility. So if you want to go to the next level from that point on, is that you can actually get a cost plan done. The larger the development, the more accurate you need to be with all of these things, and the more consultants that you will need to employ in order for them to actually give you some accurate numbers. So, but for the small to medium-sized developments, if you've done such developments before, you'll be able to figure out quite easily. And once I explain you how to do how to use the application, you'll be able to figure all of these out in no time. So we've got cost plan, quantities aware, construction economists. These people are the ones who are actually going to give you the actual cost plan for that. The next stage would be to find out from the town planner, the architect, and different consultants that are going to be involved what their costs are going to be. And also then the final thing is to actually be able to figure out what the finance costs and legal costs are going to be in order to fund the development. Once you've got this whole picture, including your end value of the development, that's the time when you can actually do a detailed financial feasibility. So, in a nutshell, there are three types of financial feasibilities. Number one is the validation feasibility, and we'll look at all three of them in a second. Number two is your full-scale feasibility. I like to call it FSF. And the number three is actually the feasibility when your project is in motion, when your project is being built. And what you do in that scenario is that you've got your full-scale feasibility that you started off with, which becomes your baseline costs. And you track your project in real time, and not just the cost heads that, okay, I allowed $100 for this consultant, but it is $80 right now, or 120, for example. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. But apart from that, you actually track the project in terms of cash flow, in the sense that you might have allowed the XYZ consultant cost to come in the 4th month of the development, but in reality it actually kicked in on the 2nd month. Now that actually messes up your entire cash flow, because you've figured out that every month that's what I'm going to need. Now we'll get into that when we get into the full-scale feasibility, which is the advanced feasibility module. But for the time being, let's have a look what they look like.